Hi, this is a response to Laura Laley, your video on vegetarianism. And I think it's really interesting that you call yourself a hypocrite there, Laura Laley, because I feel pretty much the same way. Well, not so much a hypocrite in the sense that I don't think you're a hypocrite either, actually, because I don't think either of us, or anyone I know who's a vegetarian, says one thing and does another, which is, I think, the definition of hypocrisy. You know, when you argue the immorality of a behaviour that you yourself indulge in, because you don't, I don't think, at least, get sanctimonious about vegetarianism, and I try not to, although I don't always succeed in that. But I do think that another word that you use is dissonance, and I do think that both of us and other folk who are vegetarians or who are concerned about these things are suffering from a certain amount of cognitive dissonance about these things. I mean, I know for sure that I am. I mean, I've been a vegetarian for 30 years now, and yeah, I don't eat meat. And a couple of days ago, in fact, I made a video where I accidentally ate half of a Cornish pasty which had meat in it without realising. And when I did realise, I didn't continue eating it, even though on reflection it would have been more sensible to finish it, given that I'd already paid for it, eaten half of it. You know, it made no sense to throw it in the bin, but at that point I was disgusted, so I did. Because it's yeah. As I've been a vegetarian for 30 years, I don't complicated reasons why I became a vegetarian in the first place. But I wear leather belts, leather shoes, I eat cheese, I drink milk. You know, I participate in the circulation of cattle in the dairy industry, and so on. So I'm as caught up in it as everybody else, really. And I think we are all caught up in it. I mean, that's one of the things that is pretty much unavoidable, I think. I mean, even the most stringent vegans and vegetarians, and I've known a few at various times, you know, people who don't eat honey because it exploits bees, that kind of level of veganism. You know, even those folk live in a society, you know, pay taxes. If you pay taxes, then you participate in a society that gives subsidies to farmers, including dairy farmers and beef farmers. So there is no real escape from that. We're all, in a sense, compromised. And we're all, in a sense, hypocritical, I guess, in that to the extent that we do offer our non-meat eating or non-milk drinking or non-honey consuming as a moral piece of behaviour, and then we are engaged in hypocrisies. But I don't think there's any solution to it. I mean, that's the difficulty for me. I mean, it's a cleft stick, and you know, alongside, you know, well, actually, there's two things that just kind of irritate me in this whole thing. On the one hand, what irritates me is sanctimonious vegetarians. As I say, I'm a vegetarian and don't eat meat, and it kind of bothers me occasionally when I'm forced to be really close up to meat. But generally, I'm pretty okay about it. But sanctimonious vegetarians do piss me off because they're not acknowledging, for the most part, their participation in a society and indeed a species that incorporates meat eating within the very fabric of its being, and then you can't really. There isn't an escape, so there's no excuse to be sanctimonious about it. But on the other side, you know, the other thing that really irritates me is meat eaters who don't show any signs of being troubled by that. Because I think, you know, if we are fully human, we should be troubled by that. We should be bothered. We should experience cognitive dissonance. You know, we should recognise that we spend half of our lives, you know, smiling at kittens and patting dogs on the head and looking at cartoons of animals and paying money to animal charities and that kind of stuff, and the other half of our lives eating the damn things. So that's just weird, isn't it? It's just weird. And so that whole that other kind of denial of that dissonance that some non-vegetarians have, which is to kind of, I don't know, just kind of not acknowledge that there's anything funny about that, is equally weird. And particularly those meat eaters who kind of go down the naturalistic route. I mean, there's a lot of appeal to naturalism amongst meat eaters. again, as I think, as a kind of denial strategy, a kind of way of getting kind of banishing that cognitive dissonance. You appeal to nature. You say, "Oh well, animals always do this. It's a circle of life." Blah blah blah, and yeah, but animals do a lot of things. Animals rape and they kill and they steal and they cheat and they lie and do all those things. But you wouldn't say that makes it okay for humans to do, would you? No, of course not. So that again, that bothers me a lot. So sanctimonious vegetarians and proud meat eaters going kind of doing the noble savage thing also bothers me really. And then also the that kind of slightly sanctimonious approach that you get from some people bothers me, where they say, "Well, I really don't like factory farming, but I think." Because I think animals should be okay in nature. Nature's fine, but it's this factory farming thing that's bad. But I've seen factory farms. I used to work for the Ministry of Agriculture many years ago, and I've seen a lot of factory farms. And to be honest, the life and indeed the death of most animals in most factory farms most of the time is far more enjoyable and far more painless than the life and death of animals in the wild. I mean, we have a kind of romantic attachment to nature, don't we? That of course it's best to be free, and of course it's better to be in a state of nature. It's easy to say that. There's those of us who spend most of our times isolated from nature by the benefits of Western technology. But we romanticise nature and say, of course, animals are fine as long as they're in nature, but these factory farms are terrible. But no, factory farms, apart from of course the excesses of some, and of course the abuses that take place in some of them. In fact, in general, the way that an animal lives and dies in a factory farm conditions is much better. Just is. Apart from chickens. Chickens ain't so great. So yeah, I mean, the quantity of factory farming is shocking. The sheer numbers that go through that process is shocking for sure. But if you want cheap meat, that's how you do it. And if you want cheap meat that's got the minimum amount of suffering, factory farming is probably the way to go. Sorry, that's how it is, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line for me is this: is the dissonance. I find it very difficult. I'll be completely frank with you. I find the necessity of living in a world in which one animal eats another really horrible at times. It gives me a great cause for depression sometimes. And the fact that as a human being, I'm participating in that. However vegetarian I get, I do find my way halfway through a Cornish pasty thinking, oh, fuck. This is what it's like to be alive and awake, is it? We just eat one another and then we die. God. Anyway, sorry if that's a bit depressing, but yeah, thanks very much for raising the issue. There's not been a lot happening on YouTube recently. There's not a lot of debate. But vegetarianism, I think, is interesting because it points to other issues, doesn't it? It points to issues to do with morality and the value of life and how we participate and what the value of consciousness is. We're not in the garden anymore. We're not in the garden. We've been kicked out of the garden. We can't pretend we're in a state of nature. So what do you do when you're not in a state of nature? That's a bloody question. Anyway, thank you very much. Good night.